snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is Unholy War. This is the third one in the Moontide Quartet by David Hare, and you guys know how much I've been really enjoying this series. This book in particular was probably the slowest of all of them, but definitely not my least favourite or anything like that. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't quite give it the 5-star rating I gave to the other two in the series. I gave it a 4.5, so it's very, very close to a 5, but it is a lot slower, and I wouldn't say it's bad. Like, don't think that that's bad. Basically, this book deals a lot more with the characters than the previous two. We really get to go into some background detail on the characters in this, and we also get to expand them as characters in this book. So we really see them go through some hardships, go through some emotional things, go through some really great bonding moments. Some of them get into relationships, some of them get out of relationships, some of them don't get into anything, but it's just a fantastic story in terms of the characters, and I think you probably wouldn't enjoy this one as much if you aren't into characters. I've read a lot of Robin Hobb, and I really enjoy when she does slower paced books that really deal with characterization, and I think this book is one of those where it definitely is slower in terms of plot, but the characters are fantastic. I love all of the characters in this world. Basically, this world is a world where we're following lots of people from across the land. We have two different continents, Euros and Antioquia. They are only joined for 2 years in every 12, and they are joined by a bridge. At the point where this book picks up, the bridge has been up for a little while, and we are following them as they are going to war. There is a lot of chaos on the two continents, and we have a lot of political strife between different factions, different people, different religious groups, different types of people, different coloured skin. All sorts of things are causing people to be at war with each other and hate each other and misunderstand one another, as in our everyday world. This book is also really interesting because it takes influence not only from our Western culture, as many fantasy stories do, but also from the Eastern culture, and I really enjoy seeing the two of them side by side, one represented on each of the continents. We also have a really interesting magic system within this. We have the idea that if you are a pureblood, which means you have full-blood magicians as your parents, you will also be very, very powerful. If you have a half-blood, then you will be slightly less. Then you can go down to a quarter, and an eighth and a 16th is the lowest level of a mage that you can have in this world, and you basically have people of varying skill. It's very hard to find pure-blooded mages at this point of the story. We don't have a lot of people who are purebloods anymore, and purebloods are finding it harder to mix with other purebloods and make more purebloods, so that's an ongoing problem for the world. But we do have a lot of lesser mages, and that's something interesting to follow, and some of the characters within this are lesser mages, and yet they are very, very interesting despite the fact that they are not the most powerful in the world. They have some really interesting potential. Now, there are so many characters in this that I could talk about. I'm going to talk about a few of them. The first one I wanted to mention is Ramita and Elrond. At the point of this story, they are travelling together. Ramita is fleeing her past. A lot of things have happened to Ramita over the course of these 3 books. I particularly enjoy her as a character. I think she is probably my favourite, although there are many in this that I absolutely love. Ramita is probably my favourite, mainly because I think I can relate to her most, even though that sounds an odd thing to say, because I haven't been through anything like what she goes through. I think she's a fantastically developed character, and seeing the way that she changes and is forced to grow up and evolve because of the situations that she's put into by other people and by herself, I really enjoy seeing her as a character. I do feel in this book we particularly got to unlock some of her potential. She's every page becoming more and more confident in herself, and we get to discover some really interesting magical things within this that help her to unlock her full potential and really embrace who she is as a mage, who she is as a person, and I think she's fantastic. We also have Elrond, who in this book was an excellent support system for Ramita and definitely stood by her throughout thick and thin, and was fantastic as a character to rely upon and to have support you, because a lot of the time I don't think we get supporting characters who are really, really genuine, and I think Elrond is. He is a genuine, nice person, and he's someone who cares about the people that he's with, and I think you can see that in the way that he acts and the way that he puts other people's feelings ahead of his own. He's a really lovely character. Another few characters I want to mention are Eleanor and Kazim. Kazim and Eleanor are travelling together at this point, and Eleanor is a really feisty mage character. She has been through a hell of a lot by this point of the story. She has been through basically hell and back. She's had a lot of people turn on her, she's had a lot of betrayals, she's betrayed people, and she feels like she is just kind of cast off. But luckily, again, we have a support system in Kazim, and she and Kazim have a fairly balanced relationship. The two of them actually help each other out quite a lot. She is a lot older than Kazim, and they have a really working friendship at the moment that develops over time. And I think that the two of them are such an interesting pair because they're not necessarily people you would put together or think would enjoy one another's company, but they do. And seeing how their pairing comes to be and the things that they have to go through is fascinating. I also think that they are some of the most powerful people in this world because they are adults who have really decided to unlock their potential and know how to use their magic in ways that other people don't. They're also very sneaky, or particularly Eleanor is, possibly not Kazim as much, but he goes along with what she says, and I think the two of them together make an excellent set of characters to watch and follow because they do so much stuff. Another few characters I really enjoyed was Sarah Nesty, who is a princess. She is basically fantastic in this book. I didn't like her at all at the ending of, I think it was the first book, I didn't like her. I liked her initially, then I didn't like her because she did something that really angered me. It's meant to anger you. And then I really loved her again in this book because she really grows in this. She's quite young in the first book and she makes really bad mistakes and she does things that really cost her a lot. And by this point she's realised those mistakes and she starts to try and fix them, and she starts to do everything she can to make herself into a better person and help her get out of the situation she's put herself in through naivety in the previous books. And I really enjoyed and appreciated that she was not just sitting around waiting for people to rescue her. She tried to do her own thing and she tried to take matters into her own hands, and I really enjoyed seeing that side of her and seeing the way she stood up for herself essentially. We also have a character called Portia, who is a fantastic one. I won't say an awful lot about her other than I find her immensely interesting, and I think she could go on to become a really important, very crucial character as the series progresses, although there is only one more book, so we'll see. Gervon Guile is a ridiculously horrible character who I love to hate. He is very mean, very conniving, very sneaky. You never really know where you stand with him. He's a very evil type character, but when you look inside his head, because you do get to see from his point of view, you understand a bit more about him. You realise that maybe he's not as evil as he seems, maybe he's just acting in the best interests of what he believes is going to save the world. We never really know whether that's true or not, but he's definitely an instrumental player in pulling around people, manipulating them, and definitely someone to watch out for. Another character we have is Coin. Coin is a seriously interesting character because Coin is intersex and has a lot of different complex issues going on. Coin is fascinating. I honestly can't say anything more than that, other than Coin is a fascinating character, and I find Coin and the struggles that Coin goes through really emotional to read about, really charged full of emotional, sad moments, so definitely one to watch out for. Another pairing who I actually have issues with is Sim and Zarik. They are travelling together. Sim is a character who I really enjoyed initially, and I thought she was really strong and really fun, but I feel like she has gone downhill because of this character she's travelling with currently. Zarik is a really nasty character. From the moment she meets him, she definitely doesn't like him at first, but they have a sort of charge between them, and that irritates me when that sort of thing happens. However, I do think it is very much intentional on David Hare's part, and I hope that they kind of learn things from one another and then move on. So we'll see what happens in the next book. But this book was interesting to show how the two of them were, and also get an insight into the type of character of the Dakan, which is a shape-changing race, and Zarik is one of these. We then have the character of Ramon. Ramon is a really interesting character also, but I felt like he and his storyline was probably the most boring in this book. Not to say it was boring, but it had moments that were more drawn out than necessary in my opinion. So we have Ramon and we also have Seth, and Ramon is a good friend of Alron and Sim. They used to be friends when they were all together in school, and I really enjoyed seeing the three of them. However, they've all diverged and gone their separate ways at the moment. And currently when we pick up the story, Ramon is in charge of an army, much to his own surprise. He never really wanted to get into that situation, but he is, or at least he's kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. And I think he's a really funny character. He does some great things to the economy that really screw a lot of people over, and he's also just a very quirky, fun one who definitely has some good moments and can take a joke and make one. So he's an enjoyable character to read about for sure. But I do think some of the marching army battle sections in this were a little drawn out for what I would have liked. The whole story is moving along steadily. It's definitely more of a steady book than a really, really exciting one, although there are some moments which are fascinating and really intense. But this is more of a plodding along type of story where you really get to know the characters more and understand their motivations for the things that they do, and I love that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of these threads that David Hare has woven come together in the final book. I would love to hear what you guys think of the first 3, if you guys have read them, or just generally the series. If you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts below. I love this series. I've given them all 4 or 5 stars. This one was a 4.5, so it's almost a 5 stars, and I would highly, highly recommend that you guys check it out. So do leave me your comments below. Thank you all for watching. I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little